Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Office 365 Pulse. We're going to give you guys updates on what is in development, what is rolling out, launched, and canceled on the roadmap today. I noticed that we have twice as many canceled items as we have launched items this week. Not a super long list, but we'll go through it, give you guys some insights, hopefully answer any questions that you guys have. So I'm going to pass it over to Tom first, who's going to kick us off with in development. Now, this means that Microsoft is working on the secret sausage back in the factory, figuring out how to get it done, and working to make the magic happen. So, Tom, why don't you let us know what is in development?
Ooh, talking about magic. Outlook, understand and update sharing privileges on OneDrive and SharePoint links. I think this is an awesome change. So now when you add a OneDrive or SharePoint file to an email, Outlook is going to notify you if anyone doesn't yet have permissions so that you can update those before sending your email. Yay! No more sending your emails and getting 50 emails back going, I can't get to it. I can't get to it. Fix it. Now it's going to say, you may not want to send that with your permissions that you have right now, or else your day could really suck. So that's really nice, due in September, and that looks like it's coming to just about everybody. So that's good. And then there's a few Microsoft Viva things. Actually, there's a lot of
A
purview,
lot.
lot of purview. Adam's going to have a great time.
I
But a
just
couple,
smiled when you said that.
yeah, I thought you did. A couple of the Viva ones. A new location for saved feed items on Viva Connections Mobile, so you can update the locations for saved items to make it easier to find the same. And Viva Insights Secure Bridge to Microsoft Fabric. So this creating custom solutions with unique insights. Microsoft Graph Data Connect provides secure bridge from Viva Insights to Microsoft Fabrics, where you can create even deeper views of how workforce behaviors influence the outcomes you care about by combining metrics and all those good things. That's really good because I know a lot of times when we tried doing a pilot of it once, it was like, but it's really not giving us the kind of information that we want. And at that point, it was really difficult to get any customized reports out of that. So it sounds like they're making some really good movement in that area. Don't hold your breath in the short term because it's not due out until March of 2024. Seems odd to be able to say that year and know that it's not like
Yeah, it's
2
crazy.
years in the future. But that should be coming if you're looking forward to being able to do some more of your insights that you want to use with Microsoft Fabric. It's coming your way.
Well, I have one that I can talk about, and then I'll pass it to see if Tamara has any. And if not, we'll pass it to Adam. But the one that I wanted to talk about, because I think people are always asking, one of the number one questions I get is, well, when am I going to get Copilot? Copilot, when am I getting Copilot? And I think we need to be careful not to just think of Copilot as just a thing. Like, it's not like you're going to get Copilot necessarily. You're going to see Copilot start to show up in applications that you already have. At least I think that's how most of us are going to get access to it in the beginning. And so we've got the Viva Engage Copilot. Now, that's probably going to make people go, well, what is Viva Engage? And I want it. So Viva Engage, if you think about it, it's going to be for corporate communications, people who want to do all company messagings, different things there. And then Viva Engage Copilot, of course, is going to use the large language models to personalize, create engaging communications, and all that fun jazz. And so that is in development, coming out supposedly December 2023. I think that's highly likely. They just announced the Ignites or dates for Ignite, which would be in the middle of November. So December sounds like a great time for the Viva Engage Copilot to come on out. So I think we're going to start to see a lot of movement there. It'll probably just be pieces of it. I mean, it's coming in everywhere. I mean, Copilot for LinkedIn. I see that all the time now when I go to make a LinkedIn post. It will kind of try to create it for me. But that's, so we're going to start to see that in different places. So that's the one that I thought was interesting and coming soon. And then Tamara, I'll ask if you have anything. And if not, we'll pass it to, I only say if not, because I know there's not very much left besides Purview. So do you have anything you want to talk through?
I missed it. Did somebody already talk about custom nudges?
I think it rolled up in all the Viva things that Tom was talking about, but I thought,
Actually, I didn't
Okay.
say custom nudges, but feel free to go ahead and
Yeah,
use the word nudges
I-
because
Right,
it's an
nudges
awesome
is
word.
not
custom
used.
nudges are just funny, and we need them.
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're going to have recurring nudge workflows. I mean, like, that's like the most annoying thing on the face of the planet. It's going to be
Workflows-
awesome.
workflows for a chain of nudges. I don't need a chain of nudges from anyone. I
If
just
we
need
have the ability to
someone
do
going like
this-
this. Yeah.
But I'm
Nope.
going to create one that nudges Jen like 3 times a day outside of work hours
Yeah.
for no real reason.
Mhm.
Just to
That'd
nudge
be
her.
great. That would be great.
Once we
I'm
get
gonna
nudges,
do the same.
once we get nudges taken care of, then we can move on to noogies. Because if we can get recurring noogies, then we are just
What about
dealing
grudges?
perfectly.
Can I have reoccurring grudges?
This
Yeah,
is
you
why
can. I think you already have those.
This is why
Now,
I'm Jen's favorite coworker.
this is for Viva Insights. So it is asking, it's reminding you to make suggestions. So it's not as annoying as it could be. I have a little reminder, a nudge, if you will, that I set up in Viva, and that is to remind me once a week to give praise to my coworkers.
That's
Because
positive.
at least once a week, one of them does something awesome for me. And,
And then
you
it
know, you say
waterfalls,
thank you.
and the rest of her team does it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. So that's all I
that's-
really had.
I thought that was funny. I'm gonna custom nudge you about your golden folders.
There you go.
You went there. You went there.
I'm gonna go there every chance I can get.
Oh, too funny.
Oh,
Like
gosh.
5 years from now, we're going to be joking about golden folders, and no
Yeah,
one
and
can
we'll
have
s-
any
we'll still
idea
giggle
what's going
about
on.
it.
But the
One.
4 of us will love it.
Like little 12-year-olds.
Oh, Adam, talk to us about Purview.
Sure, I'm going to actually start with one non-purview thing, just because I think
Go
this
for
is
it.
kind of cool. So, very, very small quality of life update. So right now, if you go to like share a file with someone and you're doing it through your email, and you just attach a link to the file from the source, and then whoever gets put in the to field gets added permissions. That's great. It's seamless. It works well. But if you get like copy a URL link to a file and put that in an email, that same workflow doesn't happen, right? So I've done it before where I've been in a conversation about like, a sales proposal going on or something, and someone asks for a link to it. So I go and copy the link and put it in the email, but not everyone on the email had permissions to view it. And it's just annoying. It's a small thing, but then you send it off, and at like 7 p.m. you get the message back like, "Hey, I was going to look at this after hours and couldn't see it." And you're like, "Oh, dang it!" So you have to go in and do permissions. So now, if you add like a link to a file in there, it will actually scan the recipients on the email and look for permissions. And if anyone does not have permissions to view it, it'll just let you know and give you the option to add them in right now. Again, small quality of life thing. It already does this if you attach a link to the file directly, like as an attachment to the email. But if you just put like an actual link in the body of your email, it doesn't. So just small quality of life thing. But I've personally had this happen before, and so again, just happy to see it. And then we have a giant number of purview updates. There's a couple things in here that I'm going to look at. A lot of them that are going on are just general quality of life things. I always find it interesting when we look at these purview stuff because it's very heavily based in compliance and security and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, I probably spend 80% of my time doing compliance and security stuff now. But realistically, I still view it as a lens of like I'm an IT admin that's being asked to implement these compliant policies. So what actually matters and what I care about is, well, technically, how do I accomplish these goals, right? Like not necessarily just what they're doing, but there's a lot of cool things that they're doing update to just make the IT admin's job easier and make it a little bit nicer for you to be able to do. So Insider Risk Management had 2 things. One of them I thought was really cool, but it's basically going to add the Microsoft Information Protection classifier support. So basically, when you go in and you have a classifier on something, it will help to identify things that are going on that maybe shouldn't be happening. And users are basically going to be a report can be generated to admins letting you know like, oh, hey, people were talking about stuff that maybe shouldn't, or maybe they were talking about sensitive information in a context they shouldn't, or something like that. But when you go and do the report originally, it doesn't put in usernames in there or anything like that. It will all be hex code stuff that you can find out if you need to, but really just anonymizing that to make it a little bit better. Similar vein, there's now going to be a thing. So right now, as an admin, when you get a message about a DLP violation, when like something's being trying to send out that it shouldn't, it'll reference what's going on. You're actually going to be able to download a report that has the file itself that was trying to be shared on there, which again is just going to make is going to make investigations of what's going on for something a lot quicker. If your security team or your IT team can get a notification, go through and look, oh God, this person was trying to share out a spreadsheet to add 4,000 credit card numbers in it, you can go and take action on it and stuff like that. And then finally, there's just some other cool stuff that they're doing around just making your life easier. So stuff to enhance unusual activity. So looking for stuff like sexist and racist and IP theft and, malicious stuff, bullying. They're just making the algorithms better and making it better for that too. And then finally, I'll give a shout out just because I've mentioned this a couple times, but I definitely think this is going to be a growing business segment for people in the future. Microsoft has really upped their game with Microsoft 365. High level, just to remind everyone what it is, Microsoft 365 is basically a web-based solution that gives you the equivalent of experience of like what a virtual desktop did previously, to where you have a web browser that you can access that functions as a full-fledged computer, has compute power, you can run programs on it, stuff like that. They've started to add in some of the on top layers of security and compliance to secure it and be able to do down. But there's a couple cool things that they added with it. One, you're now going to have cross-region disaster recovery. So say there's actually an outage going on in the US or something like that. In theory, if you were a company that had, production in multiple places, you can, okay, well, I'm going to, bring up desktops that are based in the EU this time or something like that. Basically give you the ability to go to other regions. That could also even be like, oh, I'm down in Texas, I'm going to go up in Virginia, whatever it is. But the ability to do that didn't exist before. It now gives you the flexibility of being able to have that. And then GCC and GCC High with Windows 365, you're going to be able to basically resize VMs on the fly. So again, think of Windows 365 as a virtual VM that's accessed through a web browser that you don't have to do nearly as much management as you would with like Azure Virtual Desktop. You're again going to be able to, let's say one of your people is using it and they say, hey, what I'm doing for my job is working with Power BI. It's super resource intensive, and the Windows 365 I'm working on is slow. Well, admin can go in there, bump up the amount of RAM, bump up the amount of compute power that instance is getting on the fly, and basically let that person in their session just get more compute power and a better experience. So again, just enterprise level controls that didn't exist previously, that as we continue to see this progress, I already have several friends that work more entry level jobs than me that like, they got a job essentially doing like call center style support. And what they were told was, hey, whatever computer you have that accesses the internet is fine. This is a virtual desktop that we set up for you. Do all your work there. I expect this to become a more common thing with Windows 365 over the next coming years as well, too.
Makes sense. Awesome. Well, let's move on to rolling out. I will start with Tamara for rolling out, and she can tell us what she likes, and then we'll pass it to Tom.
Sure, great. New Microsoft Teams app.
Mm-hmm.
So the new Teams has been reimagined from the ground up, and it's supposed to be delivering 2 times faster performance while using half the memory.
Which would be amazing because that's always the block on me. It's like, man, my laptop's running slow. And it's like, oh, Teams is using 98% of my memory. Cool.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. And it enables the user to collaborate with people across organizational boundaries by seamlessly using Teams across multiple tenants or accounts. I love that, or accounts, so I can get into the different tenants.
Oh, this is huge for my team too, just on the multi-tenant aspect of it. For those who may not know that are watching this, my team basically does like the ongoing continuous support aspect of what one of our divisions does at Planet. So we have customers that we have a contract for a year, and we just help them with whatever. Fairly often, customers want to set up a team inside of their environment for us to collaborate. And that never ends up gaining much speed because on the old client, the experience cross-tenant was just horrible. You had to log out of your tenant to do it. You'd miss messages all the time. So whenever I have a customer to ask that, I basically tell them honestly, like, well, the experience is actually pretty bad. Like, why don't we try primarily working through email for now? Once this becomes a new accepted standard, once this comes out to GCC High for a lot of our customers too, like this is genuinely going to change how my team works. It's going to be really nice.
Yeah, and there's 2 others that kind of match up with this that I think makes sense to mention here, and that's the cross-cloud guest access and the cross-cloud authenticated meetings. And so that's really good when you have, for instance, right now or previously, you had to get access to the tenant before you could go into a meeting and have full functionality. And it's not like you just had limited functionality. It's like stuff you'd expect to work wouldn't work. And then it's like, oh, have to go to a guest browser, have to put in guest browser, incognito, put in the link, and then something else is going to pop. And it was not a fun
Sacrifice a
experience.
chicken. It's been
Yeah,
around 3 times.
and you just hope it worked. But now they're getting that fixed so it can be controlled, it can be monitored, maintained. So super excited about that. I think all that's coming with the new Teams app, but that's all rolling out right now. I will say I was on vacation last week and I came in this morning and my Teams and my Outlook were again totally different. And I'm like, how about that? So I thought that was cool. So Tom, sorry I lied. I said I was going to pass it to you next, but I didn't.
No, that's fine.
But now I'll pass it to Tom.
I wasn't going to touch either of those, so it's
I
fine.
figured, and they kind of aligned with the other ones. So
There you go. We got that going on there. So Microsoft Stream audio tracks and descriptions in Stream on SharePoint, for Stream on SharePoint. So now you're going to have the ability to upload multiple audio tracks in a single video when using Stream on SharePoint. That was something you used to be able to do in Stream Classic, I believe. And it's great if you have a multilingual type workforce or organization. When you say, okay, the CEO gave an interview that you recorded and it's in English, but we need to have a Spanish track and a, whatever track, you could upload the multiple tracks. Then when people are listening to it, they can say, oh, I want to do this in Spanish. You hadn't been able to do that in the new version of Stream that runs off SharePoint and OneDrive. Now you're going to be able to do that. That's rolling out due this month. Also, Microsoft Teams live live translated transcripts. This is a premium thing, so it's going to cost you $40 per person per month if you want to have this. But Stream's premium users can now view live transcript in their preferred languages during the meeting and choose to show the translated transcript with the original transcript as a reference. So again, if you're a multilingual type organization, or you've got a mix of people within your organization that speak different languages, this could be really beneficial so they can use or they can hear things that are in their original tongue, but still also be able to have the comparison to what was actually said in the original language if they need to cross compare and make sure that what they heard was truly what was being said instead of just automatically being translated. Maybe the translation was a little iffy. So those are two things that are coming out in September, rolling out. Look for them in a tenant near you. Tamara.
Yeah, one thing that I was also going to share was that Outlook upload and share documents on large emails. So on Outlook accounts, when you try to attach a file to an email and it's hit the maximum size limit, or when the
35
attachment will
megabytes.
push, what?
35 megabytes is your attachment limit.
Thank you. Or when the attachment will push the email over that limit, you're going to be prompted to upload the file to OneDrive so you can easily share that document, which I think sounds great, but most organizations that I know have turned off sharing with external partners. So you're still going to have to find another way around that.
Well, that's true, but still, if I'm sharing internal, it's like, hey, I'm going to send Bob the spreadsheet that's 50 meg. It's nice that it'll say, hey, you might want to put that in OneDrive and share the link with Bob, not the actual spreadsheet. So,
which is definitely the better way to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, and that should be a best practice anyway.
Right.
Is to send a link, not an attachment, if it's internal.
Yeah, I have one, and then I'll pass it over to Adam for the super techie stuff. But Outlook support for offline search without Spotlight dependency. Now, if you're an iPhone user and an Intune user, this could impact you because Outlook search currently depends on Spotlight search, which is Apple's search index. But Intune commonly blocks it. So if you're in that scenario where you're an iPhone and Intune user, you could be running into a lot of issues with Outlook searching. They're updating it so it will not be dependent on that. And so that should take care of that issue. So I am sure if you are a iPhone user and that's been an issue, you will be very happy to see this working now. So yeah, so there's that one. So Adam, do you have anything
Yeah, there's one. Hopefully, you guys mentioned this. I've missed a lot of these over the last several months because my team's been ridiculously busy. But hopefully, someone mentioned this when it was originally rolling out, or originally in development. But in rolling out is Microsoft Purview Data Loss Prevention Detect AIP Label Files, which is a P file extension using the condition contains content contains sensitivity label. So you could kind of do this in a really ghetto way before. But basically, if you went through and you added sensitivity labels to documents, you could either do DLP policies that were also based off of sensitivity labels. So you basically would go in and do a DLP to look for the content itself. But not every email could check all file types. It could basically check Microsoft file types and PDFs, and that was it. And so you could basically go through and like search for the content itself. Or you could go in and do a transport rule that basically looked to see, hey, if this label was used, don't allow this message to go out, which is a pretty heavy-handed thing to do. They're basically adding a condition inside of DLP that basically looks to see if an MIP label is on. So rather than having to double dip and hope you check the content again on your email, it will basically just say, oh, my users have already gone through and labeled this content, so therefore I'm not going to allow it to go out. And this has further implications because you can use AIP or MIP labels, which for the record, I think it's kind of interesting that they called them AIP labels in this update when they're now technically Microsoft Information Protection labels. So Microsoft is using old nomenclature in their own roadmap update. But anyways,
There's a roadmap item to update it.
Yeah, for real, right? But so this is actually a very common use case in the industry. So we work with a ton of customers that are defense industrial based contractors. They have to capture CUI. The interesting thing about CUI, it's classified undisclosed information or something like that, or no, I don't know. I always get the acronym messed up, but it's basically information that's classified that maybe hasn't yet been classified itself, or that should be classified, sensitive information. The problem with CUI is it can literally be anything. It can be a chemical formula, it can be an audio recording, it can be a picture. And so in order to go through and make sure you're doing this, you basically have to rely on your users to manually label stuff as CUI. There's no algorithm you can write to do it. But so that created a weird situation that you had to do the transport rule method to go through and try to block data going out because you couldn't create a DLP policy to do this. So now if you have a good corporate culture going where you are labeling stuff that matters, and keep in mind, this doesn't have to be CUI. This could be like important internal information, right? Maybe you have a label that you say, hey, this is private to our company, and you label files with it. Well, now with this new flag coming out that DLP will check, it just gives you a much better way to safeguard that data. So actually really excited to see this launching. Can't wait for it to get to GCC and GCC High for our customers. And this will be 100% the new norm of what we recommend people to do for DLP around their sensitive internal information.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Tom, do you want to run us through launched and then I'll close us up with canceled?
Sure. Okay, take a deep breath because this is going to be a really short coverage here. Outlook Enterprise Warning Dialog. Now there's a clear messaging and cleanup options when you run out of email storage, which actually does occur even though you got 100 gig of that stuff out there. So that one has been launched and should be in the tenant near you because it went to everybody. And the other one is Outlook search box. Gee, would somebody else like to take this other one here?
Search box interface
Outlook
improvement.
search box interface improvement. So the search experience improvement makes it more prominent and discoverable with higher color contrast on the input area, border, and font, along with fine tunes on all themes, as well as light and dark mode. You know, I look at that search box and I don't see really anything much different, but it's apparently an improvement. So yeah, apparently it's going to be more prominent and discoverable now. So if you didn't know to look at the top of your list before, you will now.
In canceled, we just have a few, but Purview, Compliance Portal, AIP content, and scanner data surfaced in the Content Explorer. That's not going to happen anymore. So that's just a way that they're displaying the data. This really is just a display item that's getting canceled. So not really a big deal. Microsoft Viva, there's two of them, the McKinsey integration through data egress and insights, and the Avanade integration. So these were organizational health indexes, standards and things that you could apply that we're going to integrate. Those are getting removed from the roadmap. It's no longer scheduled. And then the last one was two-way lobby chat and virtual appointments. And this was going to be able to allow facilitators to send messages to customers prior to their meeting, but it's being removed from the roadmap and will be republished at a later date if it's applicable. So sounds like those 4 are canceled. But doesn't sound like they're too crazy from that perspective. So those are the updates for this week. Next major Microsoft conference, we of course have the Power Platform conference in October. That's the 1st of October, and then we have Ignite middle of November. So I think we'll see the roadmap hit some stride around those 2 events, and then we'll probably close out the year quiet. We seem to be getting into a nice rhythm. It'll either be quiet or there'll be 3 million updates because they cleaned up the
Cleaning up
roadmap.
everything.
So,
Yep.
but they seem to be pretty on top of the roadmap over the last couple of months. Like they're
Yeah.
really getting into a rhythm that's good.
We haven't seen any 400 line spreadsheets.
No, but those
No.
always make me laugh.
Yeah.
Those, I'm like, oh, somebody got in trouble. Somebody had
An
a
email went
deadline.
out.
Mhm.
Yep. But all right, well, that is our list of updates for today, and we will be back next week with another set of updates from everybody, or not from everybody, for everybody. But we'll be back next week, y'all. That's
We're a show of the people.
Bye,
y'all.
everyone.
Bye.